So little actually happens.
Fucking nerdgasming
Glistening,
out.
sweaty Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
And I'm dead.
Where did they get the fuel?
The cool just like evaporates.
What would a bullet do?
Where the fuck were we?
Come on. You know, where does he get the cigars?
Rain of flaming turds.
You are such a nerd.
Hey man, you got a tank?
Dash snore.
Be a whole lot cooler if you did.
Broadcasting live from inside the power band, this is The Blah. In this episode, everybody dies. My name's the Wolverine, along with my super great friends, Zarhigo, wink wink nudge nudge.
Yes, hello.
And the always super positive orange sassy swirl.
What's up?
Welcome to the show, folks. This week we are talking about the 2002, I'm afraid to say that this is now a cult classic, according to the internet, film Reign of Fire, starring Matthew McConaughey, Christian Bale, Gerard Butler, and that's it, a bunch of dragons.
And Alexander Siddig from DS9.
Thank you. Siddig El Fadil, who was so woefully underused in this film, that is enough of a reason that the negatives should be burned.
Right on.
Wow. How did I not know? Did he have like a beard or something? Because I just did not realize that was him.
Ben, it was the facial hair. No, he didn't really have a ton of facial hair, a little scruff, but it was the post-apocalyptic Matrix-esque clothing that probably threw you, man.
Oh, like the potato sack clothing?
Yeah, potato sack clothing that has like weird tie-dye kind of splotchy stains on it and little holes and shit, you know, frayed collars. That's what was throwing you off, man. Like, if he had turned in this movie to virtually any other actor or character and said Captain Sisko's calling, it would have made this movie even better.
Would have gone up a point in your rating.
Exactly. Would have elevated it up.
Had you guys seen this before? Surely you guys have seen this before.
Absolutely, yes. I saw it
yes.
around the time it came out, I think. I'm sure. Because it looked cool.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I've got a bit of a soft spot for this one. I definitely don't think it's a good movie. Like, I definitely feel like it's a solid... Well, I suppose my memory of it was that it was a B movie, and then watching it, I was like, actually, the production values are interesting, even if the writing's, B movie-ish.
And quite high, actually.
Yeah. But, you mentioned last week that you watched it and were like, oh, man, this is going to be a good episode. This is such a piece of shit. That when I watched it, I was just kind of like, I actually kind of enjoyed that. But
no, when I messaged you, I said rain of turds.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I was kind of like, oh, man, I guess that lines up with my memory of it not being that good. And then I watched it the other day and I was like, I enjoyed that. That was entertaining. But, pulling back and thinking about it high level, there's not overly plausible and the writing's pretty shit and there isn't much of a story, but for some reason it just kind of like a crappy candy bar, it just kind of satisfies, even though it's not like the best thing in the world. I don't know, I'm a bit torn, I guess, is my high level.
Well, you can't talk about this movie without talking about Dragonheart.
Oh, dude, I'm not going to say what you said. Yes, you are right, we can talk about both. Let's do it. Go.
Wow, I was really hoping to just hear like, no, come on, Jesus Christ. That was the most unexpected answer I could have ever gotten.
Take two.
If you insist, we can pursue this fracas to its final stupidity.
And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the connecting thread between this film and Dragonheart, is the fact that Sean Connery was somehow involved, and Zarhigo is on the biggest Connery tear right now ever. Which is awesome.
Holy smokes, that just threw me off so bad that my high level just disappeared. So I think I'm probably going to end up somewhere between you and Chad. I too was like... Your comment about Reign of Flaming Turds definitely colored what I was expecting going in this time, although I had seen it before, but it had been a while, so I didn't really remember. It was not as awful as, I didn't think it was awful as Reign of Flaming Turds, but it's got plenty of holes to look through and peer into the, not so goodness of the film. So
okay, I like that. My answer may surprise you a little bit. I'm not quite as antagonistic. Found one long, decent article about this particular film and read the entirety of it, and it was a pretty interesting read. Rob Bowman is a pretty celebrated director, certainly skilled. So it's not like the guy doesn't know what he's doing. And just to make a correction, when I texted Chad the other night, I used the singular of turd because that's the way fire is written. It's not rain of fires. So I wrote rain of turd. And it's interesting. When it came out, I was like, oh yeah, it was pretty cool. And then I remember watching it again and being like, I just can't deal with seeing like glistening, sweaty Matthew McConaughey in a vested heavy jacket, like, again. And
I couldn't decide whether to call it a bomber vest or a sleeveless bomber jacket.
There you go. We can debate that for the next 3 hours.
We'll have a segment on that for sure.
So I was kind of like, that movie blows. And then when I watched it the first time the other day, I hadn't seen it in so long, so I was really interested in like seeing it to remember it. And then I wrote to Chad and said Reign of Turd. And then when I watched it from my notes run, I literally stopped paying attention during the last 40 minutes of the movie because I was more interested in something that was going on my phone, possibly an article about this movie. But yeah, I just was like, I can't do this again. The plot is formulaic and, whatever. All that being said, and we'll get into, more of the minus column later, but the production values, as Chad said, are really high. And there was some cutting edge stuff done here. And there's some really great actors in this movie really trying hard to make this good. So it has its redeeming qualities. It has become a cult classic, which I kind of get because it's a mashup. And like in the article that I read, and we'll link that up in the notes, they say that like this sort of approach to dragons has never been done. And it's true. And it's interesting and it's different. And that's one of its definite strong suits. And the fact that Rob Bowman is directing it. And for those of you who don't know, Rob Bowman was a big X-Files director on the TV show. And then he directed the original X-Files film, which I love. I was not a huge fan of the show. I liked it just fine. But the movie was really, really good. So, this is a perfectly capable director. So that's my high level.
Yeah, I saw something that I saw an interview with him or a quote from him where he was saying that he saw the vision of the writers but knew it was going to be a B movie and just wanted to like shoot it as if it was an A movie, but he knew it was going to be a B movie, which kind of explains a lot of the feel in the sense that like, I mean, the writing's kind of shit, but they shot the hell out of it, man. They really balls to the walled it. And like, it makes perfect sense in a way to assume that under no circumstances is there ever going to be a fucking dragon movie that's an A movie, Like, it's a pretty hard thing to pull off. So if you treat it like, understanding that it's always going to be a B movie no matter what, even though you're kind of trying to shoot the moon, like, that seems to be, like, what they tried to do here,
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm dead.
You're not dead. There's no reason for a death there. I had another interesting reaction to this movie, which was it's almost 2 hours long. It feels like it flies by. And both times that I watched it, I was like, I'll bet the extended cut is way better. But I don't think such a thing exists. I don't know if it ever will. And just quickly, the reason why this movie became a cult classic is because it really started making a lot of its money back when it went to home video. It was a $60 million budget. It grossed $82 million in the cinema. And I think that's what kept jumping out at me. I was like, I'll bet the extended cut, there's more there in that scene. There's more there in this scene that gives it more. You know what I mean?
I can comment on that. Just in the sense that, like, they had the original spec script for this, and it was whatever it was, and they brought another screenwriter in to sharpen it up because they didn't have the ability at the time to make that script with the budget that they had. And so, like...
The $300 million?
Yeah, so, like, it just wasn't going to happen. Therefore, they pared it down to this. And I don't think there is anything extra. I think they, like, shot a super tight, shooting sequence or whatever, and then put this together. Like, I ended up like totally fucking nerdgasming out, and I read an early version of the script, and let me tell you, like, this movie is so...
Oh my God. You are such a nerd.
I mean, I just felt like I owed it to you guys to read this fucking script, and like...
Wow.
It was so bad. It was just like so. The fucking climax of this script that was like, it was written by these three dudes, like the original two spec script guys, and then another writer.
Yeah, and just for the folks at home while you're looking up, these are like three guys from Wisconsin that had never written anything.
No, it was two dudes from Wisconsin who had never written anything,
right?
And then this dude Greenberg got brought in to like tidy it up.
Correct. So that's sort of like where we're working off of, everybody.
And so this dude Greenberg came in, he tidied everything up, and like there's a script online that's August 2 years before the release date, so it's probably like close to a finished script, and it's pretty close to the movie, but like Christian Bale and his crew in the castle like flying airplanes around, and like the last final sequence, like Christian Bale ends up like flying a fucking airplane into the dragon in the air and like hits the water at 70 miles per hour, and like it's just like completely fucking ridiculous. So they really pared back what must have been a shit show of a script into something that was achievable on the budget. And so I really don't feel like there is any sort of extended version, and if there were any sort of extended stuff, it was from a pretty jankety script. So I kind of feel like through that lens, this is actually even better than it was watching it without knowing anything about it, you know?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, a lot of films go through that sort of genesis.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm with you.
You can't shake the feeling that the movie feels truncated. Like it.
Yeah, definitely.
So little actually happens. Like so little actually takes place.
That's what I mean, Ben.
During the course of the film, that like, yeah, I'm with you, Kev. I felt like, you know, there's something missing, or that, you know, at some point there was more detail. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they should have like just added some, you know, swapped out some of the jankety elements in the original script for newer, shinier, better ones, and kept a little more in or something. I don't know.
Something, man.
It really does move quickly. Like, just for the sake of discussing the beats, like a pseudo synopsis is like dragons are taking over the world, apocalypse. But like the interesting interplay between Christian Bale and McConaughey is like Christian Bale is coming at it from the we need to keep people safe and try and ride this shit out, and McConaughey's coming at it from the like we need to go and fuck these things up and win the war. And like it kind of has that 28 days later when the military show up kind of thing, where everyone's kind of freaked out by these soldiers that are probably going to swoop in and try and like, you know, steal people or steal food, or just be thugs or whatever. And
yeah,
and then it like immediately jumps to like them slaying a dragon, which kind of proves their worth. So like it moves really quickly, and it's kind of tight, but it's almost, I don't know, maybe too tight. Is that kind of what you're saying about that? It goes through it too quickly, because it's like it's almost like a Scorsese movie in the sense that it's just like boom, 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 boom.
I think that what both of you said is right. Nobody's wrong. I think Ben said it's truncated. It feels truncated, and I agree with that. And then you said, well, what you just said, I agree with that as well. It's just it flies. It's like you turn around and like they're slaying the dragon.
Yeah, my memory of it was there was a lot more going on before.
That's
the dragon.
Same here. That was my memory as well. And then the next thing you know, after they slay the dragon, it's like you turn around and it's like they're off to London.
It feels like the final act of a much longer film.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. You know, like I kind of dug the way they did the little montage-y explain everything, like he's writing a letter to somebody in you know, the future, or to be found by somebody later or something like that in the beginning, and you see like kind of the clips from the newspapers, and he's narrating a little bit. Like I actually really thought that was really well done, you know, for a bit of expository, you know, narration like that.
They went out of their way to try and make it plausible, for sure, which I appreciated.
Yeah, and they got all the information in there with the budget that they had, you know, like you had to have that, you know, that little thing. And you know, it's interesting too that Quinn was the one that first saw him, and Quinn was the one that killed him, and you know, like, you know, there's something there too. I don't know what. There's something there, kind of like a crappy cup of coffee, but you know. Okay, so we did the high level. Let's take a dive to the bottom of the dragon barrel, as it were. The only other note that I had from the beginning of the film, guys, was the inclusion of Alice Krige who is top billed in the cast. She played Quinn's mother in the past, and she's just an excellent actress, and she kind of just pops up everywhere and does these incredible little characters and parts, and sometimes they're large, sometimes they're small, but she's just a great actress. And for the folks at home, you would probably know her best as the Borg Queen from Star Trek First Contact, in which she was just excellent. And pretty much everything she does is excellent. So, I don't know, it was kind of an interesting inclusion. She had a very short part. She died, much like we do every week on this show.
Yes, it works. I did not pick that up.
Shaft.
We had the honor of being joined by Alice Krige this week.
That's right. She's somewhat of a proto-nugget.
Joined in death.
She's joining us in death. Speaking of death, before I get to shirtless Christian Bale as one of the sort of opening scenes in the future, this movie, and this is worthy of discussion for sure. This film, so in addition to Alice Krige joining us in death this week, this is a very special movie for one particular reason in the EBD universe, is that this movie dies a Star Wars death in the beginning of the film. Okay, this is super important. Like, they're reenacting Empire Strikes Back as a stage play to entertain the children early on in the film, and that would be Gerard Butler and Christian Bale. And being it what it is, this movie has the distinction of getting its own death, a Star Wars death, in our show and in our episode. And I think that that's a distinction that no other film has.
Not so far. Not unless we start covering Jay and Silent Bob movies.
Those are littered with Star Wars deaths.
Or Mallrats or something.
But you know what? Those guys are taking the piss on Star Wars in those films. In this movie, they were not. So that somehow makes it more special.
It was I loved that bit in this one for sure. I thought that was awesome.
Oh, it was so great, man.
Do you think Lucas signed off on that?
I think that when this movie was being made, everybody was probably like, "This is going to be the worst piece of shit in the face of the planet." So yeah, you do whatever you want.
Maybe. Did you either of you guys pick up on the nugget in that sequence?
Aside from my Star Wars death, no.
No, sir.
Jack Gleeson, a.k.a. Joffrey Baratheon from Game of Thrones, is sitting in the audience watching them do that.
Really?
Holy shit. What?
Yeah, man. That's one of my nuggets. I'm dropping it early.
Dude, that is tight. That's like an Inception level nugget, bro. That's tight. I'm impressed.
Is he like a toddler?
Yeah, he looks like he's about 7 years old, 8 years old. Evidently, he's also in Batman Begins, but this is before that.
Oh my God, you're right. He's the kid that he throws the little periscope night vision thing to in the Narrows.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
right. I know exactly who you're talking about. Wow.
To go one level of Inception deeper.
Dude, you might have just dropped like one of the best nuggets ever. A double level Inception super everybody Kev's cast member nug.
By the director of Inception.
And I was just assassinated by a Batman reference.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yep, you were.
And you're right. It was by the director of Inception, and Ben was just assassinated.
But I loved that Star Wars scene, the reenactment. I had forgotten about it, and it's just the best. Because it's exactly what we would do in a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Certainly if the three of us nerds were in charge of that little enclave, yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I thought was they had like electricity, yeah?
Yeah, seemed to have.
So, tell me they couldn't salvage like a DVD player and a TV or something? I mean,
I guess not. This is kind of weird. That was like the only thing they didn't have. Dr. Bashir had like a very high-tech communications setup. So what? No TV?
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, when Bale takes credit for writing it, I'm like, bro, somebody's going to check you on that. Like, it can't be impossible to like get a VCR and a fucking TV.
But it's also something we would have done. I could totally see one of us being like, oh yeah, totally. No, we made this up. Yeah, whatever. Go to bed, kids. Totally would.
Totally.
So shirtless Christian Bale, huh?
Shirtless Christian Bale. So we get to the future, and the first scene we get to see is a very hairless, very fit, very glistening Christian Bale digging with a pickaxe in some sort of tunnel. We don't have to spend a ton of time on it. I was just like, wow, that's a really interesting choice for our sort of flash forward to the future.
Maybe all the sweaty people in this movie are sweaty because they're also existing in the Predator 2 world where they're all sweaty, and Predator 2 is actually like full of dragons too.
Whoa. It's another EBD quantum theory crossover.
I guess Christian Bale, in prepping his character, decided that his character would be really emaciated and starving as a result of barely surviving, and showed up, to set or to the early production all skinny, and then saw McConaughey like buffed out and was like, fuck, and had to bulk up really quick, which is kind of interesting.
That actually happened?
Yeah. He showed up and didn't realize McConaughey was going to be such a buffer, and he like was like, fuck, and changed tack on his character.
Dude, well, his original instinct was correct, because I doubt everybody would be hairless. Where would they get the razors and the shaving cream? And also, like, so buff. Like,
same
what
place
is
they
there,
got
like,
Bashir's radio.
Yeah, right. They got Bashir's radio. Then they had like the dude, who used to be what did he say? I don't remember what exactly his job title was. It was right after this scene. Actually, he's still shirtless when he's talking to the guy, and the guy's explaining how you flip the thing and then all the water comes down and it can withstand 1200 Celsius or centigrade or whatever. All that shit's hooked up. Lights, all of that stuff. It's like shaving cream, razors. Like, where did they get all that? That was a lot of my notes are that. And like, what is there, like did they build a gym too? They couldn't have a VCR or a TV, but there's they built a gym somewhere so that
play basketball.
Quinn Abercrombie could bulk up.
They still had CrossFit, man.
Yeah, it's like pulling a dragon carcass.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the CrossFit right there.
Well, it's Gerard Butler's in this, so maybe it was like a pre-300 CrossFit kind of thing, Spartan exercises.
Well, it was. Why don't I don't understand why we don't have a shirtless Gerard Butler in this.
He looked awfully scrawny in this one.
He did, and he's like part of his fame was when he did 300, and he was just jacked and glistening,
I kind of feel like the Grapes of Wrath, I kind of want to name like your really interesting quibbles about movies, like the Gripes of Kev or something. Like, it's just, you pick the funniest shit to get really griped out about. It's so funny. I fucking love it.
Yeah, I like the Gripes of Wrath.
There you go, the Gripes of Wrath.
Where did he get a razor?
It's like a fucking dragon movie with barely applies. Like, they didn't have a fucking VCR. What the fuck?
I'm just exploring. I think part of it is I'm exploring the world building. I'm trying to poke holes in the world building, right? I mean, no.
No, I'm with you, man. It's just, I love it. I think it's funny. The shit you get hung up on entertains the hell out of me.
I obviously had similar thoughts, but the largest one, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, was where the fuck did they get a tank? How did McConaughey and company get a helicopter and a tank over to the UK from America? Like, number one, how did they get to the UK from America? And like, in a post-apocalyptic world, and two, how the fuck did they get all that stuff there?
And number three, which was one of my notes, this goes right with this, Ben, is and all of the thousands of pounds of Type 2 aircraft fuel,
amphibious
type
fuel.
4. I can't remember which it is now.
That's Type 4.
That is amphibious fuel. So this would be Type 3 helicopter fuel. Where the
Type 3 Dragon Apocalypse fuel.
I just don't understand where they got all the helicopter fuel. It was
no shortage of it either, because she's constantly in the sky, like, scouting.
Totally. And every time he's like, "Oh, Alex, go check this out." Like, she's like, "Oh yeah, right, I'm on it."
Yeah. Never an argument like, we maybe might conserve fuel, or no, never.
Like most movies like this, that are apocalyptic in nature, take your pick, any Mad Max movie, whatever. It's like there's always like at least a mention of that, Well, we've only got fuel for one more flying archangel dragon killing, Like, why do we never hear that? I don't understand that. I mean, yeah, tanks get like something ridiculous, like, 5 miles to the gallon or something. It's so low. They just guzzle fuel. I don't know. Ben, the answer to the question is that he semi-explains it.
Oh, he does.
We flew 2,000 miles or 8,000 miles, and I lost 100 of my men, and we landed in Manchester. And it's like, so what level of transport plane did he steal?
Oh, I guess he said he salvaged the C-5 Galaxy, I thought.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah. They're the C-5 Galaxy is the plane where the nose tips up, the military planes, the really big cargo planes.
Oh.
That they do drop tanks and shit. So, like, you know, whatever.
Fine.
I don't think there's a hell of a lot of value in justifying such a ridiculous bit of writing, because I am 100% on your motorcycles that it's fucking ridiculous that he's got an M1 Abrams that he rides like a fucking stallion. But
fair enough, but I want to hear the rest of this Galaxy thing, so keep going.
But just evidently they salvaged the C-5 Galaxy, load it up with a helicopter and a tank, fly it across the Atlantic. The airspeed of a C-5 Galaxy and altitude, in theory, would have been, you know, in the hundreds of miles per hour and thousands of feet, so potentially out of range of these fucking millions of dragons. But regardless, it's barely it's like a fig leaf on a fucking statue. Like, it barely covers the ridiculousness of the idea.
Well, maybe, but it was burning in my mind and Zarhigo's mind as well.
Yeah.
So it warranted a quick bit.
It was all McConaughey. He was like, "Hey, man, you got a tank?" They're like, "No, be a whole lot cooler if you did."
Exactly. Mr. Bowman, I think today's scene be a perfect opportunity for me to take my shirt off.
I loved McConaughey in this, man. I love that character. It's so ridiculous. Van Zandt, like, fuck, it's so crazy.
It is so ridiculous. And I have a great nugget about that later, but I just want to quickly say, because I'm sure this is going to come up again now that we've opened the box of the McConaughey impressions. That's not my thing. That's I'll definitely link this up in the notes. I'll send a copy to Chad. There's a great video of Matt Damon doing an impression of Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah,
that's where I took the inspiration from.
Mr. Soderbergh, I think
That's
I
it.
think this scene would be a great opportunity for me to take my shirt off.
The best part is that he says Mr. Soderbergh, like, because he's got the Texas drawl or whatever.
Oh, Jesus.
I'd like to take this opportunity to say, in regards to the tank and stuff, I feel like trying to justify it by saying that he flew a C-5 Galaxy and blah, 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 infinite fuel, blah, 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 is for the sole purpose of making a movie that's like the old school animal versus animal hypothetical, who would win, Superman versus whatever, you know, like arguments that you have with your buddies as a kids. It's like, you know, this started with those two dudes in Wisconsin being like, who would win, a fighter jet or a dragon? Like, dude, we should make a movie about that.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's pretty much the premise of this entire show. So
yeah,
I mean, our show. So
yeah, that's true too. But it totally has the like soldiers versus dragons kind of hypothetical to it, and I'm kind of on board. And that's probably what I enjoyed about it was.
Well, the premise is what makes it cool,
Yeah.
and this is a great example. I mean, we can get more into like what's working here later, but like this is a great example of a movie where the premise and, you know, not the lore itself. Yeah, the lore really is, it will carry you if you're like a fan of this movie, because it's certainly not the dialogue and it's certainly not the way the story was structured.
Yeah. It's the production values and the premise, for sure.
And it certainly was not Matthew McConaughey.
Call me Van
looking
Zandt.
for perfect opportunities to take your shirt off.
Call me Snake.
Apparently, he insisted everybody on the set call him Van Zandt.
Which is amazing.
God damn it, that was my nugget.
Oh,
That was
shit.
part of my nugget.
Nugget snipes. I love nugget snipes.
No, it was a nugget snipe, and I'll just drop the rest of the nugget. Is it not only did he do that, he said that Rob Bowman said that he used to get calls from McConaughey saying that nobody else was to do this movie but him, number one, and number two, he was always in character as Van Zandt.
I love it.
Guys, hang on a second. Folks, we're going to be getting right back to the nerdery in a second, but I just had to take a quick break because I want to thank everybody so much for tuning into the show. We put a lot of work into it, and we really love doing it. And if you like the show, there's a couple of great ways you can support the show. First, you can rate us and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also tell someone to check out the show. Word of mouth is incredibly powerful, incredibly important, and we really appreciate it. Thanks so much for tuning into the show, and now back to the mayhem.
So McConaughey's fucking great, but I feel like we need to touch on the Dragon Slayer scene because it kind of kicks the movie off, and I enjoyed it. I think the Archangel shit's fucking amazing and hilarious and stupid all at the same time, and I just think it was a great scene.
The Archangel thing is just ridiculous.
It's so funny, man.
I mean, here's the thing about this movie. Conceptually, it's really cool, but like when you get into the details, the cool just like evaporates. Like the minute you give it any critical thought, the cool factor just totally evaporates. And the Archangels is a perfect example of that. It's just like completely silly. I mean, the guys are going to skydive with net cannons and like.
Well, a bunch of dudes in dirt bikes stab triangulation shit into the ground.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it's such a complex, high resource operation that they do, and they have done 200 times to take out 200 dragons they've killed.
Yeah, it's like a wacky fucking Rube Goldberg fucking mousetrap machine, like to fucking capture a dragon. Like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Right.
Didn't fire that fucking tank one time. Just rode it like a stallion.
Never.
Exactly right.
I wish we would have got to see it actually work so that we knew what the fuck they were going for. But, you know, they get one shot at it and they fail. So we don't actually even get to see like what this method looks like as a success. You know, it just turns into Christian Bale becoming bait on a horse and McConaughey fucking harpooning the dragon. It's like, well, why don't you just fucking do that? It's, you know, it's a lot simpler.
Yeah, right. Just have the bait and just skip all the other bullshit because it is exactly that. It's a very resource intensive. I mean, I can't believe the helicopter hasn't gotten lost in 200 dragon killing mission flights. And my memory with the movie was that the helicopter did get destroyed. So I clearly remembered it incorrectly.
Well, just to chime in as the comic book guy from The Simpsons, this scene in that proto script has Matthew McConaughey master blastering a 16-year-old boy with no legs on his back called the Pope who shoots RPGs at dragons. So
you must be joking. That can't be real.
I'm 100% fucking serious. And at one point, like a dragon ends up like biting the Pope kid in half while on Matthew McConaughey's back, and like it's just yeah. So
having a disabled. I don't know if this is going to remain in, but having a disabled person on
Teenager.
Matthew McConaughey's shoulders getting eaten.
An underage child,
disabled
with no
child.
legs.
Yeah, with no, getting eaten. I don't, not the best, not the best situation in a movie. Certainly not nowadays. I think that I know what you mean though, Chad.
That would not survive today's optics.
Yeah, no, exactly. I did read that at one point they were all about like RPGs and all of this stuff, but then Rob Bowman was like, you know, no, it really needs to be like, you know, hand to hand, like up close type of combat, because that's way more anxiety inducing and suspenseful and all of that sort of thing. And I get it. I can dig that, you know. But yeah, just having Bale as the bait would have been way simpler and less resource intensive. I mean, not Bale, obviously. You don't use the leader of the England, the UK branch of We Survived the Dragon Apocalypse.
Clearly should have been Gerard Butler's character.
Yeah.
As the bait, right. It should have been Creedy or just a random. Eddie, there you go. Eddie. Since he was so cavalier with his life in the beginning with the tomatoes and the...
Oh, God.
Other shit. That was so dumb.
I do like the dragon slaying scene though, because it's just it so thoroughly ties up any question. So, like, you've got the 28 days later thing. They show up. They've got a lot of guns. They're freaking out the locals. And then he's like, I slay dragons. They're like, yeah, bullshit. And then all of a sudden, it's like, they get to prove it. And it kind of, like, cleans up what would have been a muddy, story where you would need 20 minutes for everyone to gain trust in McConaughey. Instead of needing 20 minutes of dialogue, you can do it in 5 minutes of action. So, like, I kind of respect the tidiness with which he's able to prove his, abilities as a dragon slayer, even though, he fucking screams at them later in his little soiree sequence. But I don't know. It's like full of plot holes, but it's still, I kind of enjoyed how tidy it was.
Yeah, I agree. And, to be fair, the whole Archangel thing, does, add some body to that whole scene and make it more exciting, I suppose. So, clearly they had to do something to make it a little more interesting than just, baiting the dragon with a guy on a horse and then shooting it with a harpoon.
Yeah, fair enough.
A dude on a horse.
But it's 3 dudes jumping out of an airplane, Mission Impossible, crazy action, while like a platoon full of people with guns and a tank just sit there watching instead of doing anything. Like they're just watching these dudes, while the guys did it around with their fucking triangulation spikes.
Yeah. The the triangulation spike they looked like the Thumpers from Dune.
Totally.
Right?
Oh man, yeah, they did.
No, really, they were. I was just trying to make a Dune name for you, Jarhigo, and I failed. So that's somewhat of a death. Anyway, it's like a Mad Maxian kind of version of the Thumpers from Dune. Like they're a little bit clankier and shittier and jankier, a little rusty. Like the ones in Dune were like slick and sleek and sexy, shiny. Anyway,
shining happy Thumpers.
Shiny, happy Thumpers.
Calling worms.
Calling worms. Yes.
Shiny, happy Thumpers thumping.
Shining, happy Thumpers thumping away.
Wow, this has been. I'm very excited. This is like we're sort of
calling
back to
Shy Halud. Calling, still suit sucking juice, hauling.
That is gold right there, man. We are back to form with our. We haven't had a musical episode in a while, and I'm very happy about this.
That whole thing was just to save you from a death, Kev, because you were about to die with a shitty naming of Jarhigo, but we salvaged it.
Yeah, it would have been funny, though, if it was shitty. I couldn't think of anything.
It's all right.
I shall call you Usul.
I shall call you Duncan Higo.
That was fun. Where the fuck were we?
We were just talking about the ridiculousness of the archangels and the bait and that whole thing. There's also in that scene is that we get a dose of that thing that McConaughey does where he's like, in the control room and he's like wide-eyed. He's like, all right, come on now, bring him to me. Bring him to me quick. You know what I mean? You do know what I mean because you're laughing. Because he does that in a lot of movies. And like I just want to say to the folks at home, like we're poking fun at Matthew McConaughey right now. He's a really interesting actor, and he's done a lot of interesting movies, and he's done a lot of really, really good stuff too. This may not be the strongest thing, but anyway.
I love him in this, man. I really like it. I really like the character. It's ridiculous, but I like it a lot.
I think the thing to me is that I'm feeling like it's super ridiculous now, but this movie came out in 2002, so that's like 18 years ago. So when it came out, I think it was really more on the sort of the big, like we hadn't seen a lot of characters like this yet. I think since then we have seen a lot of characters like this, sort of sleeveless, bomber jacketed, glistening, tribal dragon tattooed kind of thing.
It would be interesting to see where the descriptive writing for this character and McConaughey's vision sort of, took over from that, or whether he played it right exactly as they meant it, or hard to say considering the writing in this movie. But
the script had a lot more bullshittery in it. Like the script had way more like humdingers and zingers and one-liners and stuff. So
it already had too many.
I kind of feel like they played it down a bit.
Well, yeah, that kind of harkens back to a couple things that we've all said. I was saying that, you know, these actors are really trying to dial this movie in, and they are bringing every 110% that they have, you know. And I feel like, and I'm speaking to your comment, Ben, because in the scene after they killed the dragon and everybody's, and I wrote in my notes, Jimi Hendrix fire.
Oh my
lame.
God.
Like, I can't, come on. No, come on, man. For real? So in that scene, McConaughey, you know, goes downstairs with like his bros from the Kentucky Regulars. You know, they're all like grim and like staring at everybody, and he's teeing up this speech. But you know what? When he's doing it, he's really trying to dial it in, and you can see him starting to get like his eyes are welling up in that scene. I didn't notice it the first time, but I noticed it when I watched it the other day before I quit watching and let it play out while I was reading crap on Instagram or Reddit or something. Anyway, but you can see his eyes well up. Like he's invested. There's no doubt about that. And you cannot take that away from him. Like I can sit and do, you know, let me take my shirt off impressions 20 more times in this episode, which I very well may do, but he is giving it 110, and he's trying to make it great. That's, I think, a lot of, like, that's part of where my comment comes from. Like, I wish I could see the extended cut. Like, I feel like these scenes, like Ben said, were truncated. Like, because that was like, you know, that part of it where he was, you know, he's really saying, like, you know, how dare you celebrate? Like, we're never going to get anywhere like this. You know, so many people have died to get us here. Like, you're bumming me out. You know what I mean? Like, you're upsetting me, really. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like if there was like a little bit more in there, it really would have just made it even better and made the tone better. And I don't know. Maybe made the movie better. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. Mr. Party Pooper.
He does drop the best line of the movie in that speech, though, man. Oh, my fuck.
Which is?
These beasts, they live on ash, they feed on death. You go ahead. You have your little soiree.
He's very, like, I feel like he was channeling Ricardo Montalbán as Khan in the second Star Trek movie there, a little bit. Or somebody in that speech.
Ooh, if only he'd had a gray mullet.
Oh, my God, man. Chad, can you do a Van Zandt with a photoshopped Ricardo Montalbán mullet on him for the thumbnail for the show for this week?
I can certainly give it a whirl.
Yeah, can you imagine that, man? Oof, that's a great visual. With the cigar.
I like how it's a full-length Cuban cigar that he's like deep-throating and only fucking a quarter inch is sticking out of the front of his mouth. Like he's just chomping on that fucking thing.
He is deep-throating it. And I had a note, like, among my, like, I have a whole section of notes that are, where does X come from? Why does X exist?
The Gripes of Wrath.
One of them, yeah, the Gripes of Wrath. And one of them was, where is he getting all the cigars? I mean, like, all the cigar stores have probably been...
Dude, at the fuel depot, come on.
Destroyed, yeah. Oh, well...
Are we sure that they're actually different cigars?
Right? He's just had one for 20 years.
He keeps throwing them out and throwing them. He takes them out of his mouth and throws them.
But he probably picks them back up after they kill the dragon, I bet.
After everybody walks away, he looks around and makes sure nobody can see that he's picking it back up.
Sneaks over.
He's like, Christian. Quinn, hold on 1 second. I just gotta go back and get my cigar.
10 seconds.
Totally plausible.
If the dragons have the best vision in the day and the best vision at the night, why do they have the freaking place lit up like, you know, the Cape Cod Mall at night? You know what I mean? Like it's
It's magic hour.
You know what I mean? Well, no, I mean after Magic Hour, Ben, they have that castle lit up so bright, and then like when they're riding, you know, to go to London, marching, whatever, it's a caravan of death, where there's just so many lights on. Like, it's just so stupid. There's nobody left. Like, you would be able to see those lights for miles, especially if you had dragon vision. This would be...
Especially if you had dragon eyes.
What if you had robot ears?
What if you had dragon eyes?
You would if you had dragon vision. Of course, you could see all of that. You know what I mean? Like, just... whatever, ridiculous. Where you know, it's the same thing. He's like, where do they get the fuel? You know, where does he get the cigars, man? What would a bullet do? You know, like everybody's got a gun, and Quinn walks around with a rifle. It's like, what would a bullet do against a dragon? Nothing. Otherwise, like 10 guys with like machine guns could just stand there on the ground and blast the thing, and enough bullets would ostensibly take a dragon down. I mean, am I right or am I right or am I right? Right.
You're right.
Right?
But all the guns were for marauders, I think, like Mad Maxy style.
Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean?
It's for, like, other people, like Van Zandt showing up and being like, I'm going to take all your food. Fuck you, you know? Like, marauding around the place.
Right. right. I love it. Van Zandt, he carries a shotgun, which would be the worst weapon to have against a dragon, especially a sawed-off pump shotgun.
Right. Zero range.
Zero range.
His crossbow
like
had more range.
Yeah, the little pellets would just fall right off of him, man.
I don't know, bro.
You know, I'm not necessarily looking for an answer. These are just the burning questions that I have when I watch these films.
Peering through the holes in the wings of the dragon of this movie.
Thank you. But that was the most eloquent way to say it. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like they could have won the war against the dragons with like a bunch of World War II anti-aircraft guns. Like, if you just pulled a bunch of those off old like battleships and put them on like the backs of trucks and just fucking drove around everywhere, like you would make a gigantic dent. Like, there'd be fucking dead dragons everywhere.
Yeah, totally, dude.
The gripes of wrath.
The gripes of wrath. So, moving right along, I really don't have a lot left. There's not a whole left to talk about in this movie anyway, I think.
No. It basically, like, you get Van Zandt coming in, dragon slaying, little soiree speech, and then he tries to steal / recruit fist fights in the dirt with Christian Bale, which was a memorable thing. That was, like, I remember it clearly as being, like, a major beat in the film, but watching it again, I was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, that happened.
No, yeah, it was a major beat in the film, but I wrote in my notes when I watched it on my notes run, I wrote 2 liters square off - snore.
Yeah.
You know, and again, like, you know, I'm watching it 18 years after the fact, and I think that a lot of these things have been copied for the last 18 years, you know, like it was probably way better when it got dialed in, but
Yeah.
Okay, so continuing with the bad.
Continuing. We've been shitting all over this thing for the last 15 minutes.
Great. I wrote great lore buried in bad dialogue.
Yeah,
I feel like
no
this
doubt.
is a decent talking point. Because, like, you know, again, like we've said, like, there's some great world building and lore here, really. You know, like, nobody's ever done a movie like this. So it's like this kind of interesting take on the dragon slaying film and set in not only modern times, but the future, the near future. You know, and it's just like, it's great. And then we just get this just dreadful dialogue that just drags this, as Ben perfectly put it, sucks the cool out of this movie. Agree?
I do, yeah. I think it's like the 2 chemicals in the glands in the mouth of the dragon, super cool. They eat ash to survive because in an article I read somewhere, like, they can only digest fucking pure carbon or something. Like, the fact that they took the time to think all this shit through, I'm just like, yeah. And then they just write the weirdest shit dialogue in the world. So I'm 100% on that motorcycle.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. The chemicals and the ash, like all of that. A lot of this stuff makes total sense too. Like, literal logical sense. Like, you know,
they try to think it through, and it is plausible enough.
I think that it's awesome that they went to the lengths to, like, make all of this cool lore, but instead, what we get is like Christian Bale riding his horse to the cemetery where Van Zant is burning a fire so big that it's sure to attract 3,000 dragons. And he chews him out, and then Van Zant just goes, "I lead, you follow." A+.
A+ all around.
Personally, you disgust me.
Well, to maximize efficiency, they reuse the "I lead, you follow" at the end of the movie and replaced with "You lead, I follow."
Tied it up in a tidy little bow.
Which I thought was very poignant.
That was very poignant. Very poignant.
Speaking of, the miracle of dialogue contained within this movie, that's a perfect example.
Yeah, I actually ended up getting those 2 lines tattooed on my opposing biceps. So whenever I need to be inspired, I just take out one of the guns and, I'm wearing a leather sleeveless bomber with shearling collar, because that makes sense, because your torso's nice and warm, but your arms are cold as fuck, showing off my sweet tats.
Totally. Oh, the principle is that you got to show your tats off. So you got to keep your core warm. That's the most important part. The rest doesn't matter.
That's it.
And then we get that later in Batman Begins when Van Zandt's uncle Ra's al Ghul is telling Christian Bale as Batman how to keep himself warm, just to rub his chest
by the fire.
Yeah, his arms will take care of themselves. So there you have it. Yet another crossover.
Yet another Batman murder.
Assassination of Ben by a stupid Batman reference.
I really should have. I don't know. I really should have put on some protection, a bulletproof vest or something, because with Christian Bale being in this movie,
he knew it was coming.
It was just begging to happen. Sorry, man. I'm sorry, dude.
I'm not.
Don't be. It's all part of the fun.
It is all part of the fun. My only, I got so, I guess, noped out when I was watching this the second time on my notes. I was at a particular point in the movie, I don't remember which, I was starting to get really bummed out. And I wrote as a note, because this Geico commercial came on when I was watching it, because it was free with ads on Prime. I wrote, this Geico commercial during this movie is better than this movie. And it was the one where there's a secret agent kind of Matrix style dude on a roof, and then he gets a call from his mom, and she's like, "Oh, did you put your laundry in?" I thought it was so funny.
You gotta skip the double watch, man. It'll get you every time.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes it's hard. I want to sit and absorb the film and just kind of get into it and then kind of do a notes take,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm feeling you. This is a hotly debated topic here in the EBD base located on Valverde, the break room rather.
The break room at Valverde.
But other than all that,
I loved it.
No, look, I mean, there's a lot of redeeming qualities about this film. I mean, we've peppered them in throughout our sort of acid that we've been spitting about it, and it's you had a lot of great actors that were up and coming, and they were giving it 110%. I mean, that is a huge part of what saved this movie, in my opinion, was Bale, McConaughey, and Butler, just bringing it, man. If you hadn't had that, especially, really all three of them, man, they're incredibly capable actors, man, capable of elevating a production. And it's if you hadn't had that, I don't think it would have been nearly as good, man. I mean, you had great lore, again, buried in bad dialogue. There's some cool world building here. I'm surprised nobody's tried to do something else with this movie, considering the cult following it's garnered in its sort of post-release.
Especially now that they're throwing money at TV shows and stuff.
Well, exactly. And I mean, just this movie is, it's not only that it's become a cult classic, but I mean, this is the benchmark now. These guys put so much energy and time into making these dragons. This is essentially the dragon model that is copied. For everything now, including Game of Thrones. And, because the Draco, it's just, that was the old dragon way of dragoning. And this was very
Innovative.
more practical. Yeah, practical, innovative, and also kind of not kind of, but drawing from real biology. Like, you know, they were clearly looking at other animals and going, okay, well, how can we do this like this and make this like this, and why would the design be like this, and why would the wings extend down to the feet, like, you know, all that sort of thing. You know, there's a lot of cool stuff going on there, and you can say whatever you want about this movie. The dragons are sick. They look fantastic.
Yeah, no, I would say they're somewhat believable.
Yes, somewhat believable, and the fact that they they secrete two different chemicals that form the incendiary is just. I remember when I first saw it thinking how incredibly innovative and cool that was. I was like, wow, you know, like there are snakes that spit venom. There are bugs that spit venom. Like that's a super interesting direction to go with that. So I applaud them in that sense, you know.
Evidently, the effects guys are always like calling each other up, being like, "Hey, found another case where they copied us," and it's kind of a badge of honor now. All the other, you know,
totally,
all the other movies or TV shows out there that have the same kind of thing going. So they clearly found the right recipe for dragons.
No doubt, it's a sincere form of flattery, man. You know, and again, like Rob Bowman, like great director, you know, super capable, man, just like the actors. So a lot of interesting stuff going on. And the fact that at the time too, 2002, like being able to do that level of world building and CG with the money that they had, 60 million is not a ton, man, for a movie like that.
No,
it's pretty cool.
Did quite a bit with what they had. Well, Benny, you mentioned a minute ago the whole, like, you lead, I follow, I lead, you follow moment, and that kind of brings us straight into the climax, you know, where 3 people are running around hiding in school buses and fighting a fucking giant mega dragon. It kind of works for me, it kind of doesn't. Yeah, exactly. He's got a fucking flask full of water. That's such a fucking throwaway funny line.
Yeah, that was good. It was a nice surprise.
You keep it, you're going to need it.
And we haven't mentioned Izabella Scorupco, who was also the lead Bond girl in GoldenEye. She was pretty good in this too, man. I like the 3 of them taking this thing on at the end. It worked for me.
No, she was good. She was good. She had, again, another great actress doing a lot with the poor dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The school bus fucking Stranger Things flask sharing scene aside, they have the 3 versus 1 giant fucking dragon bullshit, which on the one hand, I enjoy watching 3 people kind of try and take down a dragon, and on the other hand, no 3 humans in the fucking world would be able to take down a dragon, so it's completely pointless. It's just as pointless as Van Zandt jumping off of a fucking chimney with an axe, like he thought that was going to fucking do anything.
Well, it's 3 people versus a dragon, but, you know, fortunately, they have explosive crossbow ammo.
Oh, of course, yeah. They've been saving it for a special occasion.
Because that's the best way, right there,
the best
to
possible.
take down a dragon.
Right. It's not only explosive. It's got C4 on it, which is the most explosive of the explosives.
Gotta just throw that in there.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, Quinn. Now I gotta tell you something. We only got 2. We only got 2 of these arrows. I traded the rest of them for a box of cigars.
Bill Clinton was in this?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's any number of things they could have brought with them that would have been a little more effective or powerful than explosive tipped arrows. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it definitely plays into what Kev said earlier about the director really wanting to push for a hand-to-hand style fight, which I get. And, like, I don't know. I didn't find a problem with the final battle so much just because I was kind of like, I'm watching a goddamn dragon movie. Like, I'm not looking for plausibility. You know, I'm just looking for entertainment.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But at the same fucking time, like, a couple RPGs or something, like, come on. But I don't know. It didn't bother me at the time. And, like, Van Zandt fucking noping out and getting eaten. And, like, it's just, I don't know. It's just like it turns into a bit of a popcorn fest for me where I'm totally fine with the shit show.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. I mean, the only thing that actually really pissed me off about it was like the dropping of the ammo thing, like
right.
It just seemed like needless, like tension building, you know?
Yeah.
So It's one of the, it's like the fucking, the person who trips while trying to run away from the baddie in a fucking horror movie. It's just that kind of like tropey level of, plot device that pisses me off when I see them.
Well, I think that
totally fair.
There's a bunch of stuff like that in this movie, Ben, that sinks this movie. That's the problem with it. In a sort of a meta sense, general sense, wider sense.
Yeah.
It's like clawing towards an A movie and just never gets there. It just hits the ceiling every time and just doesn't get there.
Well, yeah, including him jumping off the chimney.
Yeah.
It's like, really, it's such a waste of like a great character too, man. And it's an unceremonious death, really.
It kind of works for him in a way though, because it would be like he's just in a frenzy, but like I don't know what he thought he was going to accomplish.
Well, I mean, at that point, he had attracted the dragon was coming for him anyways.
That's true.
I think he was just
going for a Viking death or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think, exactly. He was going to go out swinging instead of just getting, because obviously the dragon would have just turned him into a fucking cinder.
Yeah.
Would have smoked him like a cigar. So I guess, I mean, it's one scene where they probably could have used a little more exposition to, or built a little more tension there to really point that out. Because people seem to be confused about that scene, but that was the way I took it, was that he was just going out in a blaze of glory. Like he wasn't going to just get killed. He was going to take a swing with that axe and fuck it,
Well, that's all he would have to say is like a close-up of his face just before he starts his run and just goes, fuck it, and then just runs and jumps. It would have made it pretty fucking clear what he was doing.
Would have made it clear, exactly.
I think that would have made it more excusable, because to me it was like this kind of tropey, like, go out in a blaze of glory thing, but really it doesn't fit his character, man, at all. Yeah. If you think back through the movie, you know what I mean?
He's like, survive at all costs to defeat these things.
Well, survive at all costs. You're talking about a guy who banded together like this leftover National Guard in Kentucky, figured out the magic hour thing, figured out a way to take them down, although it was overly complicated and resource intensive, as I stated before. And we all agreed upon, like, flew across the Atlantic Ocean, and it's like, here he is, and this is what he's going to choose to do to die. I mean, not only that, but the plan itself was like, oh, I'll distract them on the chimney while you're running around down there. Like, what? It was too dumb, you know what I mean, for this movie. And no, it did not fit Van Zandt's character at all, It was ridiculous. He would have been one of the people trying to survive. He was all broken up about all of the people that got lost on the way over from the U.S. And when he gave the speech about you people disgust me, like all of that, man. It's like, no, it doesn't fit. Sorry.
I agree. It doesn't fit, but like at the same time, it didn't bother me at the time because I was so popcorned out. But you make a very good point.
Yeah, it was like they were tying up an end that didn't need to be tied up. Like, I mean, he could have even made the lunging jump towards the dragon and, like, I don't know, fucking got the axe into one of his wings or something and, like, fell on the ground and, like, got injured, thus causing, like, a distraction for Christian Bale to be able to go and grab his explosive arrows. And, like, I don't know, they could have handled it a lot of different ways instead of just, basically him jumping directly into the dragon's mouth.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
Just falls to the wall.
Well, not only that, but so many people have died in the lore of this movie, in this world, like literally almost everybody on the planet. It's like, why this guy too? I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't need to see another, like, let me sacrifice myself for the sake of mankind bullshit kind of situation. Like, I'm sure there's already been a zillion of those, man. I mean, my God, the freaking dragon, like, walked up to the castle and blew fresh fire, like, right in AJ's face and, like, destroy the entire place. We don't need another freaking, needless death. I think you know what I'm saying.
I feel like
the
whole point of Van Zandt, though, is to push Bale on his hero's journey. Like,
sure,
he's the comfortable leader taking care of his flock. Van Zandt comes in and pushes his buttons and then fist fights him in the mud and then gets the kid who saw the first dragon to actually pull his head out of his ass, get some courage and go out and fight this thing. And he, it kind of makes sense that Van Zandt needs to go away because Christian Bale as the hero needs to, kill his demons and then ride off into the sunset with his new helicopter pilot girlfriend, you know? So it's clear that Van Zandt has to die heroically. Otherwise, Christian Bale doesn't get the fucking Western ending, you know?
If that's the case, they could have done it better than, like, you know, like Boba Fett falling into the Sarlacc pit. Like,
yes!
You know?
Excellent Star Wars death, Benny. I love it. Perfect.
And me right behind him.
It was perfect. I love it. That's exactly what it was. Yeah, he totally Boba Fetted out.
It had that same flavor. At least let him, like, get a strike in with the axe or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, bury the thing in the side of his head or something. Yeah,
so something. You know, I mean, instead of just like literally like
he's a fucking
just
snack
jumping into the dragon's mouth.
Yeah.
It's not like he even buried the thing in the dragon's face. Like, you see the axe just flies off to the side.
Exactly.
Dragon fucks him up good. But that wraps us up for the flick, I reckon, guys. I mean, there's not much else to talk about other than the walking off into the sunset bullshit where he's got a new girlfriend at the end.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but hold on. I have a comment about that.
Okay.
I am very glad that this movie did one thing that was great. It did not have a ridiculous romantic bullshit sideline storyline going on. We get a little, it's clear that him and Alex are going to get together at the end of the movie, and that is fine. But it didn't muck up what was going on by placing it in the middle of the film. So it gets an A just for that one particular category.
Avoiding the bullshit. I mean? For some reason, in that last moment, I was like trying to remember if she's preggo in that last scene or not, because it's totally some bullshit they could have pulled. And I'm glad they didn't, but like that's exactly the kind of thing that I feel like you're saying that you're glad they didn't do, is she wasn't like 9 months fucking pregnant kind of bullshit.
Right. That would have turned it into an F.
Oh my God. That would have ruined.
Yeah.
That would have ruined the movie. Like they had a nice subtle, like, maybe they're going to hook up, probably, but we don't know.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And it's just like, leave it at that, dude. You don't have to do, she's pregnant with a half dragon, half Matthew McConaughey creature that is going to, come back and be the one that really destroys all the dragons in the sequel, and then the third movie, and then the fourth movie. You know?
It's really the only way they could salvage that is if it was Van Zandt's baby.
Exactly. It's mixed with a dragon. Half dragon.
Mixed with a half dragon. Yeah.
Half dragon, half Van Zandt. No shirt. All right. Can we give this a fiery death and move on to the NDR? And
we certainly can.
Okay. Nuggets, deaths, and ratings. Do we have nuggets? I kind of threw out most of the nuggets I had during the film, the podcast.
Yeah. I've got a couple of nuggety anecdotes that aren't like traditional nuggets, but I have one traditional nugget that I'll save for last. We touched on the writers, and I thought like there was a quote from Matt Greenberg, the guy that was brought in to tidy up the original script. Just to flesh that out a tiny bit more, he said it was originally a spec script written by these guys that he didn't think had ever written anything before, and he read about it and said like, oh, why didn't I think of this? This is great. But it had to be written by people who weren't in the film industry, because if you told anyone the pitch, they'd go in and pitch it, and the guy would just say, get the fuck out of my office. So he was kind of stoked that these two dudes came up with an interesting idea, but it was so messy that, they only made this one script and they never made anything ever again. That's a good indication of how good it was.
Yeah. I read that too, Chad. They were like the perfect sort of red shirt writers.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like they were expendable, and it didn't matter what happened. Like they could die and that was fine.
Yeah, yeah. Another nugget I had was that it's not referred in the movie, but in the original script, the kind of heroes, so like Christian Bale and stuff, and like the people that are the leaders of these groups are called firemen. And so it was like a idea that firemen is these kind of latter-day knights going up against obviously mythic threats. So it was kind of an interesting bit of lore that never made it into the movie that I thought was it kind of tied things up in an interesting way.
Yeah, kind of. I read that too. I almost brought that up before, and then I forgot to revisit it. Yeah. I don't know. That was an interesting bit. It was like, why didn't they include it in there?
Yeah. I mean, the idea of dragons in general anyways were like to give something mythic for a knight to kind of rise up and be, heroic against. And so they seem to clearly be trying to go for like the hybrid medieval modern tale with the movie. So it kind of would have made sense to push it a bit, but they didn't.
Right. Sure. I mean, they live in a castle.
Yeah, exactly.
When the dissenters split off and go and try to steal all the tomatoes, they show up to rescue them, and they're wearing the tinfoil
fire armor,
fireproof suits, and they got these armored trucks with essentially water cannons on top of them. So I didn't really think about that before, but that's interesting.
Yeah,
super interesting.
Bit more lore. There was a nugget on our friend Alexander Siddig, which you'll appreciate, Kev, considering you were frustrated with his lack of really any substance of writing in this. Like, he was just a side character. But evidently Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey were not very well known when the film was made.
Right.
And they were quite pissed off because it turns out that on set, all of the kids would ignore them and crowd around Alexander Siddig to talk to him and ask for autographs about Star Trek.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So, like,
very cool.
McConaughey and Bale were, like, super pissed about not getting any attention from the kids, which I think is great.
Oh, that is great. That's a great nugget. And that very much vindicates me with my whole Bashir angst.
Yeah. So he didn't get any love in the movie, but he got tons of love on set, and he probably would have loved that.
Excellent. And well-deserved, because he's great, and they should have used him more in this movie.
And my final nugget, which is a traditional nugget, although I don't know how amazing it's going to be, it's more one of those, like, of course, because every movie seems to have this exact same nugget, is the studios pushed really hard trying to get Stallone and Schwarzenegger to play the two leads in this movie, which would have been a disaster. But it seems like for any action movie, they're always getting pushed by the fucking studio. So it's not a great nugget, but it's interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, that is a good nugget, man. I just remembered another one, and I just flew out of my head again. Oh well.
Good talk.
Maybe it'll jog its way forth. Ben, do you have any
nuggets? Just none other than the one that I sniped,
which was great.
Earlier the show from you, Kev.
Yes, that's true. Okay, so we move on to the deaths.
Deaths.
Firstly, this movie died a Star Wars death,
which saved Ben's ass.
That's right.
I don't know, man. I still kind of want that. Look, I got bataranged a couple times, and then I jumped into the Sarlacc pit right behind Boba Fett. So,
all right, I like it. I'm down.
I like that too. All right, so
the Sarlacc death.
So Ben's got the Sarlacc death. That's really like a sort of a suicide, really.
Yeah, only after I got bataranged by you. So.
Well, I bataranged you twice, man. A Batman reference, and then I died on one of those Batman references because I had hit you twice. Chad had a disputed death at the beginning when he rattled off this whole huge thing, and both of us went, yes. And I called that the yes death.
Yeah, fuck you guys.
That was the yes death, and then I died on the Dune Higo death.
No, we saved you with our montage.
Oh, that's right, you did. Okay, so no Dune Higo death, and then Ben Sarlacc death. Okay, let's move on to the ratings. You know what? I'll go first this time, and I want to hear what the improbability drive and the algorithm have to say. This is a tough movie, man. It's turd-tastic, and they were trying to do a lot of cool things, and they succeeded with quite a few. So I'm going to give this movie a 6.
Sweet. Didn't expect it to be that high.
You know, it's got a lot of strong things going for it, and they really, really tried like hell to make this super awesome, and really they made it's a solid movie, man, and it has attained cult status, so that gives it a little bump too, even though I'm not part of the cult. Like, I got very disinterested watching it a second time the other night, but yeah, good stuff going on there. A lot of interesting world building, lore, all of that. 6.
I like it.
Yeah, nice. Should I go?
Probably yes.
Okay. Well, I said it before, but conceptually, this movie is really cool, and it just seems to break down at the level of detail. Once you start looking at all this stuff, it kind of falls apart. But the acting is terrific. The concept is cool. Dialogue is kind of schlocky. Special effects are great. So I think it's an entertaining movie, and it's definitely worth a watch. I'm I only gave it one watch this time, and I actually, I had a good time watching it. So
nice. I like that.
The improbability drive might need a little bit of further explanation, but this one gets a 3/4 water full Abercrombie perplexing booze flask.
I like it.
I love it, man.
3/4 full would
Yeah, it's the level of
yeah. It's
like if it was full, it would be a 10. I get you, man.
Right, exactly.
It's no, that's a good one, man. That's the type of thing I expect from the improbability drive. Just to be like, I don't even know where you're going to go this time.
It's water,
exactly,
in a booze flask.
Yeah,
that Abercrombie is perplexed by. It's water.
And who's Abercrombie?
Quinn Abercrombie is.
Oh, is that his name?
Yep.
Yes, Quinn Abercrombie.
I didn't know the Abercrombie bit.
So if anybody's confused, it's a Christian Bale perplexing booze flask.
I thought it was like a sly like Abercrombie and Fitch brand flask or something. I was like, oh, interesting. That's very improbable.
That is very improbable.
I kind of want that to be a death, but I also kind of like the fact that I misunderstood it and thought it was Abercrombie and Fitch. So fuck it.
No, I mean, it's an improbability drive. So in some universe, that is what it is.
That is exactly the case. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
You can't die during an improbability conversation.
No, in one universe, Abercrombie Fitch could be the main character, like the store, just like walking around.
Like Cape Cod Mall?
No, that's like the way the multiverse works. Exactly, man.
Right, I like it.
Like the Cape Cod Mall.
Yeah.
Exactly like the Cape Cod Mall. Turning into the Cape Cod Mall, baby.
In some universe, the Cape Cod Mall is Darth Maul.
Exactly. And in others,
Boom.
Abercrombie and Fitch is the main character in Reign of Fire.
Cape Cod Mall, just walking around with a double lightsaber.
Yeah, doing backflips and shit.
Love it.
Fucking up Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, everybody likes fucking up Qui-Gon.
And in that universe, Qui-Gon Jinn is actually a bottle of Qui-Gon Jinn.
Ooh.
That washes down nicely a mouthful of yakisoba.
Yakisoba.
As far as the algorithm is concerned, it kind of falls into the realm of most movies, which is a 5 is a good movie and a 4 is a borderline movie. So I don't think it's fair to call this a good movie in the sense of like a good movie is a movie without any major flaws. So I think pretty clearly that is not going to work for this. 5 is kind of a pretty major hurdle to get over. That said, some of the movies in the mid-4s are the Lord of the Rings trilogy and Rise of Skywalker. And so I think that this is clearly better than Rise of Skywalker because that fucking movie sucked a bag of dicks.
Well put.
And I don't think it's as good as the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So it falls right in between the two at a 4.4. I feel like this is a B movie with heart. And based on what you were saying a second ago, Benny, I feel like it's entertaining enough where it's the kind of movie that if it's like on TV randomly, you'd like stick with it and watch it, you know? So it's an entertaining yarn of a film.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is definitely it's on HBO right now.
Oh yeah.
Fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is not a thing anymore, but when it was a thing, this movie would be included in that.
You totally watch it. You just be like, oh, fuck yeah, I remember this bit.
You'd be like, why not?
I'm sick of cycling through the same old shit. I'll just watch this.
Exactly. There's nothing else on. It's like, why not? I'll watch it again.
But I love that it's better than Rise of Skywalker because fuck that movie.
Oh, Rise of Papa Palpatine.
It's definitely less convoluted.
That's it. The end.
Okay. Nice job, Chad. Shout outs. I just want to remind everybody that we would like to remind everybody that the Rolling Stallones, friends of the show, Rolling Stallones, released a new album this week on Tuesday, the 15th. It is out. It's excellent. If you love old school hip hop, especially if you like themed albums, this one is really sick. It's like a Western, the whole thing. It's fantastic. I've listened to it a whole bunch of times, and I really, really enjoy it. And stick around at the end of the outro. We're going to include one of the tracks here, so you can check it out. And you can find all of their stuff on Instagram. Their Bandcamp link is on Instagram, so if you search up at Rolling Stallones, you can find it that way. And I recommend that you support them because they're excellent.
Yeah, it's awesome Wu-Tang vibes, kind of in the kind of thematic sense.
Yes, not unlike sort of Rush in a concept album kind of way, like 2112 or something that Yes might do as well. Very cool.
Definitely.
Some pretty awesome Tombstone samples.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, right? Ton of great Western samples in general.
In general, yeah, but
Good
Tombstone
stuff.
stuck out to me because we actually did a pod on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I wish that we had done the Tombstone episode when this came out. We could have mixed them up a little bit.
We should throw the Tombstone song at the end of the Tombstone episode and just like re-upload the thing so it's just sitting there.
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh, there you go, man. Smoke Wagon, I believe, is the name of that track. Well, that's one of them anyway. He uses that clip generously. There's also I don't know if you caught this, Ben, if you've had enough time to listen to all the tracks enough, but there's a song on there called Tenacious with a nice nod to the show, the original Tenacious D show on HBO, and Jack Black as well. Some good samples in there.
Oh, I missed that. I've listened to the whole thing, bro.
Yeah. Listen to Tenacious again. You can hear it. It's pretty cool. There's a Jack Black wail in there that, like, the way he cut it, you really wouldn't know it unless you were like a hyper nerd like we are. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's super cool.
There's so a ton of layers in this thing, man. I love it. It's a great album.
Exactly. Ton of layers. So be sure to check that out, folks. There's all that, and thanks for tuning in. We love you all, and we will see you on another time.
See ya.
Bye.
And that's going to wrap up this week's episode, folks. You can find the show notes for this episode in your podcast app of choice or at our website, ebd.fm/episodes/73. If you'd like to support the show, there's a couple great ways to do it. You can rate us and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Podcast Republic, Overcast, wherever you choose to get your podcast. Writing a review is super helpful, so please do so. Also, you can tell somebody to check out the show. That is incredibly powerful, so get out there and start a talking, folks. You can find us on the intranet at EBD Podcast on pretty much every social media platform. Instagram, we seem to be on a lot, so if you'd like to jump in on the conversation, please join us over there. Thanks again for joining us, folks, and we will see you next time. So long.
Say it like you mean it. Say it like it's your sermon.
I've been searching for the man that laid the waste to my teacher. Heard he's seen round these parts, disguised as a preacher, hiding behind religious cloth and a papal cross, forgiving town folks' sins and shepherding the lost. I floss in the town with still vengeance on my mind, and all I hear from people is that this holy man is so kind. Even if he gave his soul to the Lord and changed his ways, gonna learn God forgives. Not disciple of the blade in the dusty chapel. He's on his knees in prayers, and he stops speaking Latin when he smells death in the air. Stand up, you bastard! You damn well knew this day would come. So grab a knife, grab a gun, but don't think you're gonna run. He stands in turns and catch a flash of his steel, but it was too late for the hand. The disciple chose to deal. I watch his wheel when a swerve hit a femoral nerve. Can't hide from God's word when it's justice to be served. Wet my edge on his collar, drop $1 in the plate. I throw a Bible at his body, then I holler and hate. The price of fate is paid. Scratch his name off my list. Time to hit another state and disappear in the mist.
Super ineffective, so we're here to stake our claim. Directives are clear, Stallones are taking aim. On these godforsaken plains, we are jury and judge. You're about to feel the fury as we bury the grudge.
Hey yo, it's time for vengeance. The legs ain't playing games. Keep the conscience clear, draw down and take aim. On these godforsaken plains, you need a jury and judge. Bring this justified fury as we bury the grudge.
Defend my glory, focus look, it's the dopest crew. I'm an open book, but for you it's ended story. It's compensatory damage, control damage your soul. Complicated ensemble with advantage to hold. So let's get after it right quick, the righteous clip. We got a sight set on the mic, I hope the bite stick. Yo, it's even money, bottom dollar get your fan paid. Everything in your land versus Anderson, the rare blade. That's a fair trade, we keep an our agenda hidden. Underneath the lid with legal tender, surrender's forbidden. Just an outlaw, everything that I'm about's raw. Shit, but an iron fisted grip inside my southpaw. Let's twist and shout, I'll tip my cap and issue part and plot thicker than discarded lard heads in the yard at heart. It's about to get tricky, sticky like scientifics, casting, blasting with a massacre to lacerate the last king. Let the blast sting like a hornet's nest. We've discovered inordinate amounts of insubordinates. Hang them up like ornaments, tournaments are untamed. Don't ever run game, we make the murder seem mundane. You hold it fort, you need to find the biggest station. Tonight it's Big Suey, you to trigger this configuration. Opposed diametrically, flows fry electrically, effectively objectives to override your trajectory.
Yo, it's time for vengeance. The lanes ain't playing games. Keep the conscious clear, draw down and take aim. On these godforsaken plains, you need a jury and judge. Bring the justified fury as we bury